Muy buenos días, bienvenidos, bom dia, bienvenidos a todos. Thank you very much for joining today's session. I'm Alejandra de Rojas, and I'm one of the recruitment managers for the Oxford Executive MBA here at Said Business School. And I'm responsible for Latin American, Central Asian, and European-based candidates. In today's session, I will provide you with some information about the Oxford Executive MBA, such as the program structure and a typical class profile. I will also be talking about the admissions process and cover some frequently asked questions. And then I will hand it over to our EMBA alumni and students that will share with you their experience of doing the Executive MBA. There will be also some time for Q&As, so please use the chat function to ask us some questions. Said Business School at the University of Oxford blends the best of new and old. We are a vibrant and innovative business school, but yet deeply embedded in an 800-year-old world-class university, tackling world-scale problems. By joining the SBS member program, you will have different benefits by being part of the Oxford University. Like, for instance, the final award on this program is a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Oxford. In addition to that, you will have memberships to different types of institutions, like the Oxford Union, which is one of the world-famous debating societies, and a full membership for life to one specific college that you can choose from a list of different colleges. Said Business School belongs to the University of Oxford. We are part of the Social Science Department. We are deeply embedded in an 800-year-old world-class university, and here we are tackling world-scale problems. By joining us, you will have different benefits for being part of the Oxford University. Like, for example, the final award of this program is a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Oxford. In addition to that, you will also have membership to different types of institutions, like the Oxford Union, which is the world-famous debating society, and also a full membership for life to one specific college that you can choose from a list of different colleges. Okay, fantastic. So to cover a little bit of information about the structure, so that you know, it is a part-time program. The idea is that you're able to balance your studies without pausing your career, keeping your time for your personal life and personal commitments. The Executive MBA has been specifically designed in this modular format for this reason, as it allows senior executives to gain a full master's qualification without interrupting their professional career. We have two intakes per academic year, one that starts in September and the other one in January, of roughly 70 students per cohort. The curriculum is the same for both classes. However, the teaching weeks are more regular for the January program. There is no difference in content or qualification between the two intakes, so you can apply to join the cohort with the timing that suits you best. Modules, as I said before, are week-long, usually from Monday to Friday, which means that you're back at Oxford or a designated international location every 5 to 6 weeks, and there are approximately 16 to 18 weeks of study across the 2-year EMBA program. The week-long rather than weekend format delivers an immersive experience to maximize your networking and learning opportunities. The core themes of the program are entrepreneurial thinking, strategic leadership, and global complexities and risks. In the first year, you study your core fundamental modules, and in your second year, you can tailor your master's depending on your interest by choosing your 4 elective choices from a broad range of different options, like, for example, fintech, diversity and inclusion, to strategy and innovation. The first module week is going to be held online, and the rest of the modules are going to be held overseas or mainly on campus in Oxford. The program is truly global. You will study one of the core courses overseas in Asia or Latin America, and the rest gives you the opportunity to study 2 international electives, one in Palo Alto, you will have the entrepreneurial finance course, Cape Town, South Africa. Next slide, please. Thank you. Just quickly on the Executive MBA class, we have a very diverse group of people from many different sectors and also from many different countries by nationality and also by where people are based. 70 to 80% tend to fly from outside the UK, from all over the world, to come to study at Said Business School. The average age tends to be 39 and the average years of professional experience 15. Of course, there are some ranges around that. What really matters for us is that our candidates have at least 5 years of managerial experience in a broad sense, managing teams, portfolio of clients, budgets, projects. So in terms of gender split, also to provide you with some details, we tend to welcome around 30 to 40% of women onto the Executive MBA program, but we would love to have more women in our programs. We do encourage all women to make sure to check the women's scholarships that we have available on our website, amongst others. Next slide, please. Thank you. There are a number of different financing options, and we can help you build a case for your company if you like any information, or even if your line manager or HR director would like to come and visit the school, we can arrange that for you. We have a number of MBA scholarships here, like the MBA Director Scholarship that partially awards up to a maximum of £30,000, covering a portion of the course fees. The Women's Scholarships, here we also have one that covers 50% of the course fees. And well, we encourage you to have a closer look at our website to find out more information about the different scholarships that we have available. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, to give you just an idea of your own timeline, as I mentioned before, we have 2 cohorts per year, starting in September and January, and we always advise that you apply early. The sooner you apply, the better, to guarantee a place in the program, have a wider choice of colleges, and in order to secure funding. Quickly to go over the deadlines, you can see here the deadline for September, and my colleague will show you the next deadlines for January. We have a list of deadlines that you can see. We generally have 5 stages of deadlines associated with each of the program intakes. Okay, thank you. Next slide. The tuition fee for the September 2024 and January 2025 intakes is £117,080. It is payable in installments. You do not have to pay for all the fee up front. In order to apply, you will need the following: at least 5 years of managerial experience, an undergraduate degree, or equivalent professional qualification. We also ask candidates to complete a GMAT or an executive assessment test. Exemptions may be available for some highly experienced candidates as well. We will ask you for an English language proficiency test, and at the discretion of the admissions committee, the requirement to provide English language test course may also be waived. We will also need 2 professional or academic references. We will ask you for their professional or academic email addresses. And to finish, we will also ask you for 3 official essays based on your motivations and goals, self-awareness, and analytical skills. Next slide, please. And now, let me hand it over to the real stars of this session, Mirly Pérez, Sebastián Soneira, Sebastián Valdivieso, and Tiago Rocha, who will briefly introduce themselves, and we will continue with some frequently asked questions, and then you will have the chance to ask your questions live using the chat box. Okay, so let's start with you, Mirly. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Alejandra, for organizing this, and Jonathan for co-hosting as well. So, quickly introducing myself, my name is Merly, and I am currently enrolled in the EMBA program that commenced in September 2023. At the moment, my role is I serve as a business development and client services director for EMEA and APAC at a corporate services firm headquartered in Hong Kong. Originally from Mexico City, I now reside in London, and my background is in international business. And that's it from me.
Thank you so much. Sebastián Valdivieso, if you're so kind to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this invitation. And my name is Sebastián Valdivieso. I am a part of the S22 cohort. I'm already finishing the program. I'm 3 months away from it, and I joined the cohort on this program with the project of one of the projects of developing my own business. I have worked for 14 years in the financial industry in Chile. I'm relatively well known in my country. I have been in the media for quite a few years, but now I'm running my own business. I wanted to start. That was my dream from many years ago, and now I'm doing that. I relocated to Canada temporarily. For now, I'm running my business from here. And now finishing the MBA, I have also other projects that are starting precisely as part of this program. So that's my initial background.
Thank you so much, Sebastián, and also much appreciated. I believe is almost there in Vancouver. So thank you very much for being here with us. And now, Sebastián Soneira, please, are you so kind to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Alejandra and Jonathan, for organizing this this meeting. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I am originally from Argentina, part of the January 19 cohort. But I have finished my executive MBA with J20 cohort because I deferred the second year of the program due to COVID. I am based in the UK. I have been living here for the last 5 years. I moved with my family at the end of 2019. After I have finished with the first year of the program, I am an accountant by training, but I hold a master in finance, a master in law and economics, and the MBA was my third master. And currently I am working as a group FD for a British company that grows, imports, packs, and distributes fruit and vegetables within the UK retail market.
Brilliant. Thank you. Gracias, Sebastián. And now, Tiago, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, Alejandra and Jonathan. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I'm the oldest here, at least one of the first in the panel that did the EMBA, but I have started this path doing firstly the diploma in financial strategy. And later on, I liked what I was seeing there and decided to apply for the EMBA. I live in Brazil. I live in Florianópolis, an island in the south of the country. Previously, I used to work in São Paulo, almost 20 years of experience in corporate finance, mainly working for large corporations listed in the pulp and paper business and consumer goods industry. After the EMBA, I switched and I have my own company called Build From Scratch, which is basically working a lot with new technologies related to sustainable technologies, so green tech. So I have a website called greentechbusiness.com, and we help facilitate the growth of those companies and invest.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tiago. Okay, so now that you have all introduced yourselves, thank you for doing so. Feel free to use the chat box to ask any questions. Due to my technical issues, if you're so kind to use the Q&A option, let's see. Well, no, it looks like I will be able to read both options. So any of these options, the chat box or Q&A option to ask any questions live to our panelists would be great. I might be able to read these. Otherwise, my colleagues, Johnny or Sophie, might be able to help. In the meantime, whilst you're thinking of possible questions, let me start asking the panelists some initial questions, like, for example, giving the different great options in terms of business schools that you have over there in Latin America, North America. Why did you choose Side Business School? What motivated you to fly over to join us here in Oxford? Who would like to start?
I would start. Yeah.
Please, thank you.
So for me, it was actually a professional decision. I've actually lived and worked and studied in 3 different continents. So for me, it was a bit of like, I want to know more about Europe and what is happening over there. So then for me, it was the best choice to learn from like the core, and obviously Oxford University, in my view, had no comparison. At the same time, during COVID, I also started another program, the same as Tiago, I believe. So I did a diploma in global business. So I decided to that made my decision easier. So I decided to continue with Oxford as well.
Fantastic, thank you, Mikli. Anyone else would like to share their motivations? Why did you choose Side Business School? Thank you, Sebastian.
Yes, my decision was made. This is my 3rd master's degree. I think Sebastian is in the same situation. This is my 3rd master's degree. I started in Latin America, in Chile. I went to a business school there. I did a master's in finance. Then I went to London. I did a master's in economics there. And when I was there, besides liking the British culture, I decided I wanted to go to Oxford because, one, the obvious is the best university in the UK and in the world, according to many rankings. Second, I think one of the most relevant things for me were that it had a focus or a significant focus on entrepreneurship. I wanted to do that precisely as in my introduction said. And second, because it had a focus on impact in developing leaders with an impactful approach to life and business. For me, this is more than just business. Is more than just making money and being very efficient and effective on doing that, but also to create or make an impact in the world that surround us. And I believe Oxford had that particular focus, and that is a differentiating aspect of to many other business schools that I believe are more focused on being a very good business professional and making money, etc., which is obviously relevant. But I wanted to get something more, and Oxford had that. And besides, the whole aura around Oxford is also was very important for me in that decision.
Brilliant, thank you, Sebastian. Tiago, Sebastian Soneira, do you want to share anything else?
Yeah, I can share. So for me, it's very similar to what Sebastian explained. The EMBA was my 3rd master's degree. The prior 2 masters I did them in Argentina, so it was more pursuing pursuing a dream. So I wanted to have to do a master in an English speaking country. I did some research in universities in the US, also in the UK, and I ended up applying to Oxford because of the reputation of the university, its story, because of, and I think we are going to explain more that in detail, because of the Oxford experience, because of the international cohort and potential network, and also, as Sebastian has explained it, I didn't want to specialize in business, because I have already done a master in finance. So I want to acquire or learn new frameworks or tools to have a global mindset, and in order to achieve impact, or to frame the current world challenges, especially within my industry, which is the agri-food, and try to think creatively to tackle those problems and challenges.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sebastian. Tiago, coming from Brazil, what motivated you to fly over to Oxford? Can you share this with us?
Very interesting.
Thank you.
The comments, and I was thinking mainly when I decided to apply for the MBA, one of the most important issues was that I was thinking to change career. So when I looked, I thought, hey, really, Oxford is going to be able to bring a global perspective. And I was very attracted with the idea of having the models in China. At the time, there was a China model, India, California, and also London. And I was already doing a lot of road shows, for different financial transactions, bonds, equity, etc., abroad. And I thought that this would help me also for the work at that time. So one thing was to be able to have more exposure to different regions and be more confident to do business in different places. And the other one was the move and the change that I was planning with my company, which was more in the entrepreneurial side. I think Oxford is perfect for that. I can recommend a lot the model there in California, and also the London FinTech model was very interesting from my end for what I'm doing today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tiago. Brilliant. So let me see. Please go ahead and ask some questions. We are more than happy to answer to any questions you might have live. Well, in the meantime, I'm going ahead and I will be asking more questions. Maybe you can share with us a little bit more about the program structure. How did the format work for you in terms of the week-long blocks? Well, in the overall structure of the program, how did you manage? What about the logistics of flying in and out? Can you share a little bit about that?
Certainly. Well, for me, it was also a benefit that I was already based in London. I know that most of my classmates do travel across the world to the modules, but something important that I believe about doing the MBA at Oxford compared to other universities, for example, is that it's a whole week when you are actually immersed into the Oxford, into the city. So we all come together, and then from Monday to Friday, you stay with your classmates. Some of them come during the weekend, so then they fight a bit the jet lag, or they relax a bit, or they do some reading, or we participate in several social activities as well within the colleges or amongst ourselves. But then something important is that so you create this group with your cohort. So then you are together for a whole week, and it's really interesting to, like, after the classes in the afternoon, you go for dinner, and then you just keep on discussing the topics that you saw during the day, and it's really like very immersive compared to, for example, other universities that will do it during the weekend. So for me, that was a benefit. It is a benefit that I still enjoy within my experience with Oxford. So because you actually come to Oxford every 5 weeks, then you have time to, after you immerse yourself into 1 week in Oxford and with your studies and with your classmates, then you go back to your daily activities, either with your family or with work. So then it gives you a bit of some time to also collect your thoughts and then reflect and then keep on learning while you are doing something else, and then continue your career. So for me, that it works really well.
Perfect. Thank you, Midley. Let us hear more about your colleagues, Sebastián Valdivieso, Sebastián Soneiras, Santiago Rocha. You were flying from overseas. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience? How did you manage to be, what did you do? When did you arrive? Did you book your flights in advance? Can you share a little bit more about the logistics and, well, if the format worked well in that sense for you?
Well, I'm flying from, right now I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. So I have 8-hour difference with the UK, and yeah, I had to travel every 6 weeks. It's a kind of a difficult aspect of the program. The jet lag it stays with you for a significant number of days, I would say. But to me, those are part of the experience. I don't think it's something that difficult. Instead of the structure of the program, it works perfectly well for me that we can kind of disconnect ourselves for a whole week. I don't like the weekend format. I explored that idea when I was looking to other business schools, and I don't like the weekend format. I prefer to have a full week, very intense, because it's very intense. You need to know that you are going to be working on your studies all day. Then you have dinners and these other extra activities, but all related to this. But you are fully immersed during a week in Oxford, and I think it's fantastic. I love it. Obviously the challenging aspect is this difference in time zones, but again, that's a small part of the. I mean, the problem is too little for me compared to what I have from the program. In general, for me, the structure works perfectly well, and I think I'm enjoying it. Yeah, that's my view.
Thank you, Sebastián.
Yes, so for me, it was a huge commitment. At that point in time, I was living in the south of Argentina, in the Patagonia. So I usually plan the trips, and I bought the tickets like 3 or 4 months in advance. So I started my trip usually on a Thursday. I took a domestic flight from the south to Buenos Aires. I spent the night in Buenos Aires, and on Friday morning to the international flight from Buenos Aires to London. Arrived at Oxford on a Saturday morning, and then take some time to recover from the jet lag, and also on Sundays I met my peers and we did some readings, and I usually stay until the following weekend. Because the week is very intensive. You start early in the morning and spend 12 hours every day at the business school. So which was something I really enjoyed, because all of your colleagues are coming together from different part of countries, and you will be immersed in that week, learning new stuff, having interesting conversations. So it's a very nice experience. I really enjoy it, even though the following weekend I finished very tired.
Thank you, Sebastian. Sebastian, if that's okay, is it possible for you also to share? You are the one who has had family while you were pursuing your executive MBA. Can you also talk a little bit about how you balance studying, work, and family? I believe your wife was a great support in that sense. Can you explain how?
Yeah, I couldn't have done this without my wife's support, who subsidized a lot of my parental tasks, because as I have said, I spent I would say half of the month, or sometimes more, out of home. 2 weeks, 2 weekends I was in Oxford, and then as I did it with a full-time job, when I came back from the Oxford week, on the following Monday morning, I needed to catch up with all the pending stuff from work from the prior week. And during weekends, I spend time catching up with the readings, meeting my peers when we had group assignments, or preparing an individual assignment. So it's doable, but it requires a huge commitment, and it's much more challenging if you have a family, and special, and in particular small kids, which demands time and attention from parents. I don't know if that answers your question. Happy to.
Yes, thank you, Sebastian. Yeah, that really helps to see how you manage to balance a little bit everything, and obviously family support is key. Not only your company's support is great, but obviously family support is key to be able to do the executive MBA.
Yeah, you need you need your, if you are married, wife support is crucial, is key. So it's good, or that's my advice, to have a conversation and make an agreement with your partner before you apply for the program, and then also with your employer.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. And well, now maybe you could also share a little bit more of information about those different projects that we have. I'm talking about the entrepreneurship project and the Global Opportunities Threads Oxford project that most of you already have experience. Maybe Sebastian Valdivieso, based on well, the outcomes of this project, maybe we could start with you. I'm talking about the entrepreneurship project. I believe that you have a very interesting story to tell. So please go ahead and share it with us.
Okay. Yes. The Go-To project is one of the courses that gives you perspective. I mean, a global perspective. We try to solve a global problem. We particularly focus on the difficulties to get access to finance or financing in the global south. But that's the Go-To project very briefly. The EP project, the entrepreneurship project, is something that is working surprisingly well for us. We are a group of 4. We started just to obviously to get the assignment done, but then we have moved to create a real company. We already have an LLC based in the United States. I'm working with 3 other Americans, and we produce an article. We are a consultancy firm, we produced an article regarding climate change for COP28. This was regarding climate change, in particular with focus on the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa, one of the regions most affected by climate change currently, and in the future it will be as well. And this article was published in the Oxford Middle East Review, one of the journals in Oxford, and this was read also by the government officials in Qatar. And we were invited recently in May to the Bloomberg Qatar Economic Forum because of this article, and because they liked our view, our take, and they invited us to that economic forum, where we met other leaders, economic experts, and also some government officials of Qatar. So many things have happened after this EP project that started just as an assignment, but then it has become something real, and we want to continue as a real company. That's why we have founded, and we are a real company now. Yeah.
Very exciting. Thank you, Sebastian. Does any one of you also want to share any of their experience in related to those different projects, or maybe also related to that, if the EMBA has helped you to make some pivoting in your career, or if you know of any classmates with a similar situation like Sebastian, that you would like to share with the audience?
I can share regarding our EP project. In the end, it didn't become a company, but I saw many projects in our class starting to be, really companies that were really formed there. And one of the companies I remember, and they are still, running. So because we were J17, it's a health tech company with people from the class, and they are growing and growing, not only in the UK, in other countries, so also in Spain and US. So I think it's a really interesting opportunity for everyone who participated in the EMBA. And our go-to project was related to the future of work. And at the time, I was working for a company with 25,000 employees, So you can imagine that we did a very interesting work related to that. And the board of the company invited me to present that in considering a global perspective, which was very useful for them, So as Sebastian mentioned, this kind of work and interaction, we have the opportunity to look with a more, systemic view and consider different aspects from the regions we are learning and visiting, and experiences of our colleagues. So in the end, I think the results, we overcome what we were thinking before, and we learn a lot.
Thank you, Thiago. Thank you for adding this additional information. That's very interesting. As there are a lot of companies, startups that have been created after the completion of these projects. So thank you. Would you like to share maybe a little bit more about the diversity in your classes? I was talking about that typically 20% of our students are based in the UK, but 80% of our students come from all around the world. So for those of you based in Latin America, you won't be the only ones coming from so far away. Maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about your experience in that sense, not only in terms of nationalities, also in terms of the different sectors that we have represented in our classes. Mirli, would you like to share a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Alejandra, so we have classmates coming from Canada, big number of classmates coming from the US or from the North America region, at least 10, I would say. We also have lots of classmates coming from different countries in Africa, so something around like 8 or 10 as well. And then it varies. Many coming from Ukraine. We have others coming from the Middle East, and the rest from Europe. So it's a very diverse class. Not to mention that we obviously also have classmates coming from Asia Pacific. So we have classmates from Singapore, from Japan, from China, and so on. So it is very diverse in between men and women. The type of industries varies a lot as well. So people working in healthcare, many entrepreneurs. Some others are working in finance and banking. Some big CEOs of big companies. People working in consultancy, in the big fours. It varies a lot. Lots in business development, many in AI, in e-commerce as well. So yeah, very diverse.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else would like to say something? Diego, you have your hand raised. Is it related to this or to the previous question? Otherwise, feel free to jump in.
I think it was, but it's not raised again. But I can speak. I can tell you that we have people. We have people from several different countries. Almost everywhere I go, I meet friends, and basically we became friends during the course. But one thing I decided to do was when we were doing the trips for the different modules abroad, I decided to bring my wife to all the international modules. So basically, we were doing those trips, those modules together, mainly not just to enjoy the opportunity of studying, but also enjoy the culture of the country later together and have the experience, both of us. I think this was very important in terms of diversity of cultures that for me and for her also, now we know more, and people that of course we keep a relationship until today. And basically I have some friends from Hong Kong that I speak more from, Brazil sometimes, basically. Like every day I speak with a person from Hong Kong, and not every day I speak from other places. And so the distances get shortened, and the industries, you have a little bit of finance, you have people from, family offices, you have people from different industries in all sectors, and it's very rich opportunity for interaction and business development, later, independently of only the course.
Thank you, Diego. That's very interesting. I'm glad to hear this. On that note, you mentioned you were talking about the international modules and electives. Sebastian Valdivieso, you have recently been in Peru and Palo Alto. Would you like to share a little bit more about your experience, or anyone else, any of our panelists, if they would like to share about their experience in those international modules? That would be great.
Yeah, sure. I went to Peru. It was a great experience. I'd never been to Peru. I'm from Chile, but never been to Peru before. And it was a great experience, not only because of seeing the differences, similarities and differences we have as countries and cultures, but also to get a grasp again, to think about how much we as Oxford graduates in the future can do to improve things in Latin America. I think we have a privilege of being here, but also a responsibility. And I think it's very impactful when you see how much you can create on other people's objectives, or how much you can inspire other people. I think it's a very insightful part of the program for me. It was. Then I went to Palo Alto as well, with completely different culture, very much entrepreneurship. I love that. I love the culture in Palo Alto in general. They are it's similar to the MBA in some way, in the sense that it doesn't matter your background. They don't care about your religion, your race, your nationality. It doesn't matter. We are all there to create value. That's why what unite us. I mean, that's their thinking. And I think in the MBA is similar. As Thiago said, I also have friends from other regions of the world. Perhaps I speak more to them than people from Latin America sometimes, because this opens your mind. I have friends from Greece, from South Africa, from the UK, from the US, etc., and Saudi Arabia. So it's a fantastic experience. I think this is a very global perspective that you develop when you are in the EMBA. And being back to Peru and then go to Palo Alto and doing all these things around the world, I think opens your mind, and definitely it's an impactful experience, I would say.
Nice. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for sharing this with us. I'm conscious of time, so sorry that we're running a little bit late. But before we finish, if you're still able to stay with us, I think it would be interesting to know if you were in the position of considering doing an executive MBA like our audience today, what piece of advice would you give them? Sebastian Soneira, if we can start with you.
Yes, absolutely. What I would say is think first, why do you want to do an executive MBA, and what do you want to achieve? Because there isn't a right or wrong answer to that question. And typically people want to do an MBA to change role, to change industry and country, or even as my colleagues have said, to start their own business. In my case, my objective was to transition my career internationally and to complement that international background experience with some work experience as well. And I would say that the Oxford experience and the Oxford brand in my CV helped me a lot to achieve that goal.
Thank you, Sebastian. Mirli, can you give them a piece of advice?
Yeah, I think that's similar as Sebastian. I think that it's important to question yourself, to ask yourself the question rather of like, what are you trying to achieve? Because, for example, many of my classmates decided to move to Oxford to have the full Oxford experience. So while they are still working, but then obviously they negotiated with their job about like working from Oxford or then working remotely. So then to have the experience of like being in the ecosystem of like the university offers, because there are just so many events, so many opportunities for you to either join. So the Entrepreneurship Center, for example, if you want to launch your startup or to scale it. There are just so many forums. There are politicians coming, or so business owners, personalities coming to speak to Oxford all the time. So then there is just too much that you can take advantage of. That you really have to like focus on what is it that you want to achieve. Same as Sebastian, I think that there is no right or wrong answer as long as it kind of like aligns to what you're looking for to achieve. At the same time, yeah, I mean, several of my classmates, they've joined to launch their career, taking advantage of the Oxford name. But many others, and I would say probably most, they want to launch their own business, their own project, and that's one reason why we are there. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Thank you very much, Mirli. Sebastián Valdivieso.
My advice is to think about why the executive MBA and not the MBA. The executive MBA fundamentally gives you a different cohort, and that is an entirely different experience. In these cohorts, you are with people with significant experience. They are in high-level roles or entrepreneurs, etc. It's an entirely different experience, and I think it's important to understand that the difference. In terms of the program, wouldn't be that different because it's a Masters of Business Administration. So it's fundamentally the same program, but the cohort is the difference. And second, think about what else do you want to get out of Oxford? Because business schools are many are very prestigious and very well known, and you are going to have top level education in the US, in France, in the UK. But Oxford, so the question is, because Oxford is also a top level business school. So the question is, what else do you want to achieve? In my case, what made me decide for Oxford was the whole experience of Oxford, of being in an institution that has almost 800 years old, and you feel the impact that creates on you, that many people, many thinkers from history have been there, and I think it's very inspiring. Second, because the program was focused on entrepreneurship and also on being an impactful business person. In my case, I'm very interested in impact investing as well, and Oxford had that. I think those are the extra things that Oxford has that make a difference to other business schools. That's my advice, consider those aspects.
Thank you very much, Sebastián. Tiago, would you like to add something else? Thank you.
No, I just think that, for example, the EMBA, you have people with much high seniority, and then, for example, usually something like 15, 20 years experience, and people that are like using a lot of the content that we have during classes in their own day-to-day business. So usually you have a subject there in a class, and then you are discussing with people from other industries, other background, and you can evolve and apply a lot to your work. That's why I chose this one, and also the format of 1 week per month. So I was like traveling, doing investor relations and finance role for a large corp, and then basically every month I was in New York and London working. Besides, I had this 1 week for Oxford. And the EMBA, I think, is more like straight commitment and different. And usually, I'm not sure if I'm 100% right, but most of the people from the EMBA, they are looking more for like leadership positions or personal development for becoming real like leaders for like driving change in the world, etc. And usually at more junior level, you are looking for a progress in your career. So I think this is what I believe, basically, regarding the difference.
Thank you very much, Tiago. Okay, so well, I'm conscious of time. Sorry for the delay, for being a little bit late. But I wanted to thank you, Mirly, Tiago, Sebastián, and Sebastián. That has been very insightful. So thank you for being here. Thank you also to the audience and my colleagues. And next slide, please. Whilst my colleagues are moving to the next slide, I would like to encourage you to send us an email to find out more about the program. Feel free to contact me if you're based in Europe, Central Asia, or Latin America. Otherwise, if you're based somewhere else in the world, you can contact my colleagues. You can see here their contact details. And thanks again. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigada. And have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
you.
And,
Bye-bye.
feel free to connect if you like. Really feel free to connect if you have additional questions. I'll be very happy, and I'm sure that Sebastian and Tiago will be happy to answer any questions offline as well.
Muchas gracias, Mirli. Thank you, Mirli.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.